You're around Eric long enough, eventually you start butting heads, but it's kind of like natural, like it just kind of
Dude,
happens.
what my best friend is an ENTP, and him and I do this shit, dude. This is not new to me. It's fun, even though we get passionate, just like Eric and I. I think Eric and I, like just like what you were saying, Eric. Dude, I feel the same way. We're completely cool, and I enjoy being here and talking about stuff, and this is fun as shit.
Viva
Like,
NTPs.
there's
Viva
never any hard
NTs in
feelings.
general. Viva NTs in general for that very reason, right? They're able to distinguish between arguments and people. I appreciate that, NTs of the world. INFJs, I'm including you in this crowd as well of people who can distinguish, because INFJs can be very good debaters too. So I see an ISTJ in the house. Now, whose quadra has ISTJ?
Delta, right?
Okay, so ISTJ would be with Delta. So who else is in that quadra? We've got. Let me get my quadra sheet.
ESTJ,
I got it.
INFP, ENFP.
Yeah,
INFP.
the NFPs and the STJs. That's right.
Okay. Well, I was thinking maybe we could get a quadruple going. If we have a quadruple in the room at any point, we're launching that second room. We're quadrupling. I don't care which quadruple it is.
No, I never thought of that. If I get Faith, my friend Nathan, my father, and then a guy from my school, if I get them all in the same room, I'd have a Delta quadruple.
See, I could probably get.
Go
ahead.
I've been in a quadruple. It's me, INTP, my girlfriend ESFJ, my good friend from high school Max, he's an ISFJ, and my best friend ENTP. And we play video games together, and it's the funnest shit in the world. Like, because we just bounce all over the place. It's
so you're just like the little visitor from Type Utopia, huh? Is that what you are? You're the visitor from Type Utopia, where you marry your dual and you hang out with quadruples all the time. You're just here to rub it on our fucking faces, huh?
Fuck you. Fuck out of here, bro.
Yeah, and then when you're done with all that, you go back to your mansion and eat caviar all night, or what? Fucking living you're living the MBTI socionics dream, dude. Dual with a quadruple of friends. No wonder you're so like.
Yeah, it is pretty dope.
So like mushed out for an INTP, like more.
You seem very chilled out.
Yeah.
You seem very chilled out.
It's interesting meeting people who I get wisdom from. I was so fucking stupid and arrogant and everything in the past that I really just didn't think anybody had anything to teach me. I just thought I was always right about everything. But when I encounter people like Chad, because nobody can ever beat me in an argument. When I encounter people like Chad and Yubi here, I think, oh, these guys are like, they're not just playing at it. They actually try to like make their lives better and stuff like that,
They actually try to make their lives better.
This is gonna sound really corny, but I truly feel like the best way to gain the most wisdom from everything around you is humility, because a certain part of wisdom is just appreciation of something. Like, if you just sit there and fucking watch an ant, like, that's an amazing fucking machine. Like, I know it sounds really weird, but like,
Yubi, you are entirely discounting the wisdoms of arrogance. Okay, you're losing half the playing deck there. The wisdom of arrogance has to be included too, or else you're only getting half of your powers.
What if you're arrogant in your ability to utilize humility to progress yourself?
Can you do that, Yubi?
Yes, you can do that.
Can you still get the? Do you still get the humility though? Do you still get the humility if you're arrogant about the humility, or does it discount the humility entirely? Does it turn it off?
I'm messing.
Arrogance is
humility. To me, true humility is you're not self-centered anymore. Like, you realize this entire system is bigger than you. Like, everything.
How many points of true humility do I get if I intentionally wear an ugly shirt? How many points of true humility do I get if I intentionally wear an ugly shirt?
Really, think about it for a second though. Like, you go through this life. You have what at best, at a great life, you have like 80, 90 years. You gather all this data during your life, right? Think about how fucking complex everything is, and the actual time scale, like billions of years, and you were alive for like a fucking water drop of it, like a just bloop, and you're done. And then people actually get arrogant about the knowledge that they think they have.
Well,
Like, that's insane to me.
yeah, I'm gonna get arrogant. First of all, the universe is only 45 years old. Second of all, it's contained entirely within me. Okay, so yeah, I'm gonna be a little arrogant about
Eric,
it.
how would anything in his experiences have collapsed from those superpositions? They wouldn't have happened without his direct observation of
Yeah,
stuff.
you guys are every single one of you right now is my observation that's collapsing your superpositions. Otherwise, you'd still be half wave and half particle.
I wouldn't even be here right now.
I
I'd
know.
be waiting to be collapsed.
The only reason you were born is because I watched your parents have sex. Okay, so yeah, but seriously, Yubi, I know I can't stop doing that, but I am impressed with your general like self-development stuff. I'm sure, and I'm also impressed with the mildness of your maneuvering me, right? That you're not actually getting annoyed, and you're actually successfully maneuvering me in lots of situations, and sometimes not maneuvering me, and that's fine too. And I'm very agreeable to anything, so it's not like I'm ever going to be offended by anything. So I appreciate your skill in doing so. You've learned a lot from your ESFJ wife, or fiance, or girlfriend, or whatever you call her.
Alrighty, thank you.
Any other thoughts?
But I
Go ahead.
yeah, just to add, I mean, I've definitely learned already since I've been talking with you guys. I've learned stuff as well. So
What about pineapples?
I wish I could be as
favorite student.
yeah, exactly.
One of the most growth periods of my life was when I was being taught how to teach by a real mentor teacher who was a hard ass and who was apprenticing me because he was paying me to work there concurrently while he was trying to teach me to do the job. So I had to learn it fast. And it wasn't like a coaching thing. Coaching thing, we have a lot more play. If you win, you can get away with anything pretty much. But when you're teaching grammar, the parents really have to believe in your product. So a lot of parents don't want to buy their kids extra grammar classes, right? So this teacher was very TE heavy, forcing me to do it in very specific ways. He made me write on the board in cursive, and I had to learn his whole grammar system. Prior to that, I didn't understand English grammar. I graduated with a degree in American literature from college. I did not know grammar at all. And now I know it perfectly. Now I understand it perfectly. Why? Because I had to fucking swallow my pride and go, Eric, you don't know any of this shit. You're doing a bad job. You think you're doing a good job, but he just sat you down and gave you a little talking to. And you realize you're doing a shitty job. That's why he just had that conversation with you. You need to actually stop being arrogant for a second and fucking pay attention to what he's telling you to do and try to do it. And I did, and it took a while, but I got better at it, right? Because like the hardest thing for me at first was learning class control. But at least I had the protocols that he had me doing. So it was like a series of steps. It was like, here, learn how to use your fucking TE, retard. And I did. And it was great, very useful for me.
Fucking retard.
Yeah.
That's
That's something I always admire about ENTPs when I meet them is like their use of grammar and just language in general and the ability to fucking say things so succinctly. Like, it annoys the shit out of me that I can't like condense things so quickly and like
Well,
I'm doing right now, where I'm trying to just keep trying to explain what I'm saying.
We can do it fast. We don't necessarily condense well. I condense better than most when I'm paying attention because of my work as a debate coach. ENTPs had a tendency to ramble like ENFPs. Are we done with this topic? What are we talking about anyway? Besides, we're talking about UB's transformation into a guru or a yogi. I'm sorry, that's the word I was looking for. A yogi.
Guru.
Can you levitate yet?
Do you know what?
No.
Sorry, I'm not. We're about to go on a whole other conversation. You know what the word yogi means?
He who levitates.
No, The word
Oh.
means union, and in the old Hindu cultures, it was one who had made union with this system. Like, so where the individual disappeared, and he was one with the system,
With protocols, that sounds like
with the universe.
TI
Not that.
dystopia.
No, with with the universe.
Oh, with the universe.
His yes.
You
But
mean
he had
Jesus?
experienced it. He had made union.
You're talking about Jesus, right?
So, I mean, in every religious culture, everyone talks about. I mean, if you read them, it's always why does the concept of a light always come up? If you notice that, great light came upon Jesus, a dove came down upon him, and he was reborn. And he told you, "I do not speak from myself." He's telling you, "I'm not an individual. Deny thyself." He's telling you, deny the concept that you have of yourself, and really find yourself, which is the self, the
Okay,
being.
so this is an interesting point. It's one I have legitimate exceptions with. First, let me also say, I would see that light thing as evidence of a bias in favor of visual people by heaven. Heaven is unfairly biased in favor of visual people. I want a tone or some set of melodies. I don't want a light. But regardless of that, on a more serious note,
saw a light?
Eric.
What?
John?
On a more serious note,
What if you saw
I don't
a
like
light?
the idea of getting rid of the ego. Go ahead, but ask me a question.
Okay, so let me say this: what is one? Is the ego even there, or is it a concept? What I'm saying is, okay, let's say a being says, "I don't like getting rid of the ego." Well, I say, my answer to you is, it doesn't matter. The ego's not there. There's nothing there for you to get rid of. Your concept of ego is an illusion.
Okay, so you already knew that I already won. Well, congratulations. I did. I already won. You lost, that means. It's a zero-sum thing. For me to have enlightenment, that means you have to be unenlightened. But on a more serious note, I want to actually talk about this. The ego thing is wrong. You're wrong about this ego thing. In fact, the ego is what sustains a consciousness into an identity. And I know this because I've gone through both stages. When I quit drinking and I was in China, there was a long stretch of time for about 2 months where I went to at least 2 and often 3 AA meetings a day. I did a lot of prayer, a lot of meditation, stuff like that, right? And in fact, I felt probably what you're experiencing a fair amount of, which is this sort of lightness of being and just comfort and feeling of friend among friends, not removed, not the hollowness that's always underneath, right? And I think that there's legitimate claim to say that ego gratifications produce hollowness. However, I think my hollowness has more to do with needing a wife. Regardless, what I learned in AA was I could either be spiritually sound and not do anything productive, or I could get my shit on and get shit handled. And you know what? I'm happier handling shit. That's it.
But there's a false correlation between ego and being able to do things in the world. It's not.
You misunderstand.
This is all,
You misunstand the
you're
ENTP
speaking
brain.
as concepts.
You don't understand my brain, dude. Look, before there was any definition of ADD or anything like that, I suffered through decades of being super ADD, and as many ADD people do, having massive substance abuse problems, including methamphetamine and then alcohol, both which I had to kick, right? So, for me, I know the struggles it is just to sit still and watch TV. It's one of the main reasons I became an alcoholic. It's the only thing that allowed me to watch TV. And I wanted to watch TV. So I can't relax. I've never been able to. Since I was 5, 6, I don't know, young. I remember being sometimes exhausted and finally feeling like relaxed for little bits of time. I remember feeling, I feel relaxed when I go off the medication. Every month I go off for about a week. There's a certain couple of days where I feel normal, where I feel like I go to bed and I'm tired and I just like rest. I wake up, I feel rested. I don't feel antsy, and it lasts for a little while. And then I'm off the medication for more than a couple of days. I start going, and then eventually I get to and I go back on it. You might say if I didn't go on it at all, that would go away. But like I told you, I didn't go on it until about 5 years ago, and prior to that, I know what life was like without it, and it was a fucking nightmare. Now, there may be a bunch of spiritual work I can do to transcend that. There is, but that's the point. I spend all my fucking time doing that.
Well, and it's not. You're saying you would like. You're already transcended it. You just have to realize that. It's called realization for a reason. See, people have the wrong idea about enlightenment or any of this. You're not doing something to get to some level. You are realizing something that's already there.
I didn't make any of those arguments. What I'm saying is that to the extent that you make claims about the nature of the ego, to the extent that you make claims about the nature of the ego, and that doing something with it at all is implicit in some sort of realization of something that's already there, whatever you want to talk about there, however you want to frame it, the distinction is being drawn by you between ego and not.
No, I'm saying there is no ego. You're drawing the distinction that there is an ego.
How are you defining this thing that doesn't exist, Yubi?
Because it's a concept that you have of yourself, right? Okay, you're saying, what is your ego? You're saying that I have these thoughts and emotions and habits that I observe, and based on those, I react to those and I put together a model in my mind of who I am or what I am.
So, Yubi, is the single self-illusion possessed?
Is the what?
Is this single self-illusion, which is what you're talking about, is the single self-illusion possessed?
No, it's habitual. The mind is a machine of habit.
So it's just a process.
It's a
process, right?
Yes, it's just a process that has been
a process
that's
executed
run
by
out of
what?
control.
A process executed by whom?
But you have to say why does there have to be an executor? Like, why does there have to be?
Because we are moral agents.
These are all concepts you're speaking about, and you believe in them.
Well, what they are is they are positions that are better than they are claims. They are stronger claims than the ones you're making. They're stronger claims than the ones you're making.
I'm not making.
They're not beliefs. I don't have beliefs. Okay, I don't. That's a fucking fairy tale. A belief. This thing that you have. No, I behave according to things that you might say are assumptions that one would correlate with believing. Right, but that word doesn't mean anything. There's knowledge. And there's assumption. That's it.
All I'm telling you is that the ego, the sense of being an individual, is an illusion.
Right. Possessed by whom? Yes, it has to be possessed by somebody. That's the problem. You're trying to skirt moral agency. You're trying to skirt moral agency with your Buddhist nonsense.
Hold on.
Listen.
Let's slow down. Slow down.
Why? I don't accept your Buddhist argumentation framework. I reject it. I say it's counter to your soul. It's counter to your soul. You're bringing your ego back in by clinging so with such attachment to your Buddhist framework.
What is this soul? Have you seen it? Have you touched it?
Well, what's this ego that doesn't exist? You keep talking about it, and yet you claim it doesn't exist. So what is this? What is this non-existent thing defined as?
Oh, you're claiming that there is an ego, and I'm saying
I am not claiming that. When you say the ego doesn't exist, I'm telling you, okay, define this non-existent thing. You made a statement. The ego doesn't exist. Define this non-existent thing. Also, answer the question of a process that's clearly initiated by an individual that somehow is not possessed by the individual. Now, you can point out single self-illusion. You keep running in your same mirror trap. As you pull back from the single self-illusion, you go, well, somebody has to have the single self-illusion. Oh, well, that's another illusion. Oh, well, somebody has to have that one. Well, that's another illusion. Well, we clearly don't have 40 fucking illusions in our heads. So that destroys the single self-illusion argument.
You're arguing against the concept that you think in your head, not against what I'm saying.
I'm not the one making the claims. I'm responding to them.
Can we just hold on for a second? When I say something, I have like a concept that I'm trying to communicate, right? Like I have like an in-eye picture that or something that I'm trying to say.
If it's not putable into words, then it's not a concept. And if it is putable into words, then it needs to be parsed out and destroyed until we get down to the truth.
Okay, but I'm saying that's fine. But if I say something and I have an image in mind, and then your brain, you make a judgment on what that image is. So it conjures an image in your mind. It rattles off all the brain parts in you, like all your past experiences, your knowledge.
That's not how language works.
Hold on. It rattles off in your brain, and you have an image, and then you come at me and say, "This is what you're talking about."
That's not how language works. I am making no claims about what you're talking about. I am not saying anything about what you're talking about. I am making statements about what you're saying. There's a difference between what you're talking about and what you're saying.
Let me clear this out. So, what you say, like based on like your spiritual views, you're saying that like, the ego doesn't exist. You're making that claim, and then if I ask you to define the ego, you're saying you can't define it because it doesn't exist. Then what?
No, I mean I can define. Okay, the ego is an idea in one's mind that one has about him or herself.
So is it identity? Is it identity? Is it identical to identity?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So we know identities exist because I'm claiming to have one right now. So I claim it exists.
That doesn't mean it exists. Just because you claim something exists.
I can name it, I can describe it, I can define it. My identity is comprised of multiple components, right? So now what about this ego that doesn't exist that you keep talking about? Can you define it?
You can say, okay, so what you're saying right now is you say, my identity exists as a concept in my mind, and yes, you are right about that. It does exist as a concept in your head, but I'm saying in reality, it does not exist.
You mean
as an actual substance.
What you mean is in the dimension of physical reference, it doesn't exist as a space object. Space objects are no more real than time objects.
That's not what I'm saying.
Well, then you're not saying anything that's true, because you're saying it's more real or less real based on its physicality. And that's not what makes things real.
That's not what I'm saying.
You just said it's not real because it's just a concept.
Yeah, what I'm saying is you have a process. Since you were born, right? Or so as you grew, when you were little, did you have the same identity you have now?
Look, you keep making the same claims. Just because an identity is fluid doesn't mean it's undefined.
Well,
just because an identity is fluid doesn't mean it's undefined.
Please Yes.
Ubi, I think you're skipping a step. You're saying ego doesn't exist. I think you should be saying ego exists as a concept, but it doesn't have to.
That's what I'm trying to say to Eric. I said ego exists as a concept in your mind. Okay. That's correct.
I have a response. So if you abolish the ego, if you abolish self-concept and identity, then what's the next thing that inherits that moral agency? The universe?
What do you mean by moral agency? Explain that to me.
Well, if we assume, if someone doesn't have an identity, and we're an ego, how can we attribute certain behavior to that person?
Because you see a person as an actual entity, but it's just a process of habits, and there's nothing actually in it. When you look at a tree, you realize there's not a tree in a tree.
You think that things have duration don't exist. Do songs not exist because they have duration? There's no connection between duration and reality and existence. Just because something's a process doesn't make it less real.
Eric, hold on. If I take a sip of coffee, it was really good. It was really damn good. You don't say the universe took a sip of coffee. You say I took a sip of coffee. Like Zachary took a sip of coffee.
No, I don't say the universe took a sip of coffee. I don't say Zachary took a sip of coffee.
Okay, but if you abolish the moral agency of me, my identity, then the next thing to inherit that is the universe.
So the point is, it's abolishable. We agree with you. You can get rid of the ego. You can non-egofy yourself. My point is, for me to do that means I'm spending all my time doing that and not doing anything productive.
But what I'm saying is you don't have to spend any time to get rid of the ego because the ego is not there. It's a
Yes,
concept.
it is, though. Just because it's a concept doesn't mean it's not there. And in fact, it's not only a concept, it's your fucking duty. You have to ascribe to an identity to fulfill your duty as a moral agent, to be accountable for your own behaviors.
You have a working identity that you use in the world, yes, but that's not your true reality.
But you already agreed that ego was defined as identity. You already agreed that ego and identity were the same definition. You already agreed to it. I already pinned you down on it. You lose.
No, but I'm saying the identity has no reality to it. If that distinction is understood, you have an identity, I guess you could say, in that you use my family and my friends, and everyone calls me by my name, and they all know me by this, but they are not that individual that they think I'm not that individual that they think I am.
Well, then, if you're not defined by how your expressions to others, and if you're not defined by your own metacognition, then what?
I can only tell you what I am by telling you what I am not. I am not anything in particular, but I am.
How's it? This makes no logical sense, though.
It's not only does it not make logical sense, it's wicked. It's a wicked. I'm going to accuse you of wickedness. Ubi, I'm accusing you of wickedness right now, okay? Ready? Here's why you're wicked. You're wicked.
Everybody here, you can't talk about enlightenment. It's a lack of something. You can't talk about a lack of something.
Okay, well, I want to talk about it like this. So I want to say, actually, getting rid of the ego, if you could do it, is a bad thing. Enlightenment, if you could do it, is a bad thing. That's a rejection of your own moral agency. That you're constraining yourself to certain acts only, and even then, to engage in those acts, you have to reject the core principle of the thing you're engaging in. Look, you cannot act without manifesting an identity.
Okay, well, I want to give my thoughts on this. Okay, I don't think in my personal views, I don't think enlightenment comes from abolishing your own identity. I think it comes from actualizing your true identity. And it sounds like you're arguing similarly, but you're saying that like someone's true identity isn't equivalent to the cognition of their processes. Is that right? Am I representing you correctly?
Well,
say. Go ahead.
Well, the Buddhists sometimes make a difference between the self-concept as this small self and the true self as like the large self. And so when you erase a lot of your self-concepts, you see the real you better.
Yeah,
but
and
I feel like
that is one way to think about it. And when they say in Buddhist concepts, or if you listen to Jesus or anybody, any big religious text that has survived over history, what they tell you is there is no it is the self, not myself. When Jesus says, "I am one with you and you are one with me," he's not saying in some like
a Marxist.
Yeah, exactly. He's saying I'm a fucking commie. That's what he's saying. I'm Jesus. I'm a commie. Let me steal your money. Next thing I'm going to do is steal your money.
Saying at the absolute basis of your reality, the nature of what you are, of what you are, is not different from the person sitting in front of you. You talking to somebody, you're sitting beside someone, right? It looks like there's a boundary between you two. This is my body and that is another person's body right there. But we already know, because of quantum physics, there's no such thing as a boundary. There is no that, like, in the sense of language and experience.
You are trying to get out of the box. You're trying to get out of the box. You can't get out of the box.
You can't. Well, that's what
you're saying. Listen, Eric, I'm not trying to use language for what language does. I'm trying to use language to suggest that somehow we ooze out of the box without any words. You can't get out of the fucking box. None of us can. All right. Now look. Here's a much better.
Trying to tell you, your idea that you're in a box is false.
No, your understanding of my words in a box means you don't understand the nature of language. You seem to think that words can be done, can do things they can't do, right? You're using words to try to talk to me about the non-existence of a box. the oneness of all
Yeah,
things, etc. Right?
words
But
can-
all those
words
arguments
can
die
never-
immediately.
words
They
can
die
never-
immediately because words have codified specific meanings that are exclusionary of
Yeah.
other ideas. And so what happens is anytime you try to express this in words, you're making claims, and you're making terrible claims. You're making terrible arguments, and they're getting shredded.
I'm saying no. I mean, maybe that is what is happening in your head, but words can never express what I'm saying.
That's
You
not
can
happening
only
in my
try-
head, dude. That's happening on YouTube. Your ideas, your words, these concepts are getting fucking shredded. And there's a reason, because they're bad. They're bad words.
That's
They're
fine.
bad claims. They don't withstand muster. You're trying to say you should believe the things that aren't that are behind the claims. The non-existent magic behind the claims. Well, we can have that magic without making bad claims. Thanks for
I'm not telling
watching.
you to believe it.
Movie.
My words are trying to express something that's beyond words. Words will never.
Right.
Words can only
Movie.
point to it.
Thanks for
Movie,
watching.
you
Talking.
can't do it. Stop.
Thanks for watching Talking in Spanish, people. It's impossible, but awesome fun that we're trying. That's great.